Well, guys, it's another day, it's another project. We've got a beautiful spring day here. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the F-150 that I've been working on. You may have seen previous videos of mine where we're doing the transmission work, replacing the torque converter. And today what I wanted to do is I actually want to work on these mirrors that we've got. So I've got the 2019 F-150 XLT being kind of the lower package or the trim level. There wasn't really an option for different mirrors unless you specifically requested them and things like that. And the fact that I rebuilt it, I wasn't really gonna. I rebuilt the truck a couple of years ago and got it as a salvage unit. I wasn't going to be too choosy as far as mirrors and things when I was doing that. So anyways, with all the different projects that we have going on around the house, as well as the wrecked cars and toys and things that we rebuild, I do a lot of trailering with it. And what I've really found is I don't like these standard mirrors. They're so small, and then also this little fisheye lens portion doesn't do a whole lot for you. So I'd like to upgrade them. I wanted to go with a set of tow mirrors on it. My old truck, I had a 2009 F-150 that had the tow mirrors on it, and I just got so used to having that, that really nice perspective of what's going on around you that I kind of missed them. So I wanted to get some aftermarket tow mirrors put on here. And actually, a note on that, I had looked at doing OEM tow mirrors originally. I really wanted the power folding because I'm parking in a garage or in a parking lot or something at work, and I don't always want the large tow mirrors sticking out. So I wanted something power folding. And so as I looked around online, looked at different forums and things, one of the brands that kept on coming up was this Boost Auto Parts. Previously, I hadn't had any experience with them, so I wasn't sure what to believe. But, I followed these forums and looked through Boost Auto's website, and what they're selling is actually an aftermarket kit that allows you to put power folding features, power extending even if you wanted them, on your truck. And now, if you were to do the OEM approach, you'd have to get the new mirrors, which alone are a couple $1,000s. You'd have to get new door modules. You'd have to get harnesses inside your door. To plumb it into your existing system, you'd have to go through ForScan or something to program in the new features, and all in, I mean, you'd be $3,000 into it if you went with new OEM parts, and probably a lot of headache, trying to do all that. So what Boost Auto then offers is their aftermarket kit has a power fold, power extend, but it actually works wirelessly. So you give it power, and then it'll wire into your existing door control or your mirror controls, and you can do the power folding, power extend as needed. So anyways, I reached out to them. They were kind enough to recommend a set for me, and I kind of worked out a deal with them. I put a description, or I put a link to the actual set that I got in the description if it's of any interest to you. So what we're going to be doing with this next project is getting those installed, and I'll kind of detail what I see about them, my impression of them. I'm optimistic, as I always am, but I'll let you guys know how it goes. Well, guys, I'm not huge on the unboxing type video genre that's out there on YouTube, but I thought I'd at least show you kind of what you get. I ended up ordering the power folding mirrors with heated upper and lower mirror segments, the large one and then the fisheye below. And then just standard turn lights. I didn't need anything too fancy. And to be honest, if I went with, they have like sequential lighting and the switchback and everything like that. And then also smoked out mirror or signal lenses. But the rest of the truck, it wouldn't really match it. So I ended up going fairly simple on this design. Again, I was mostly interested in the power folding feature. So this is what you get in the box. Firstly, I guess you get all the different hardware that's required to interface it to your existing truck. Lots of different cable assemblies. They all seem to be, pretty clearly marked. Then we've got kind of the brains behind it. These are the RF modules, or, I don't think it's Bluetooth, but it's some kind of radio module that allows you to communicate or control the mirrors and do the power folding without having to tap into, the OEM cables and door control modules and everything else. So this will be the brains of it. And then here's what the mirrors look like. Pardon the mess. We've always got a project going on. But wow, those are Those are pretty heavy. That feels like a real deal there. So like what you might have on your existing truck is the 8-pin connector. This essentially has kind of like a 20-pin connector that adapts down to 8-pin, and then the rest of the smarts get tapped into it from there. Yeah, like I said, that is a heavy unit there. It's got a pretty stout feel to it. Nice and clean looking though. I mean, it's kind of what you're expecting. You want it to look OEM. You don't want it to look too crazy. So I like this. Pretty excited to get that guy on there. It'll be quite an improvement, I think, from those smaller standard mirrors that I've got. All right, so let's get into it. We're over here on the driver's side. Apologize the mess. The truck's getting used to work on some of these other projects, so it's a lot dustier than what I realized. We're just going to start by taking off this kind of trim cover, and that exposes. We've got two flanged 10mm, looks like nylon locking type nuts. Two here, and then we've got two on this back side that are, again, 10mm bolts though. We can take those off. I'm pretty certain there's like a plastic clip on this outside that should keep it from dropping. You might just keep a hand on it just in case, but you can watch the nut and see if the stud starts pulling away as you're loosening to let you know if it's going to fall or not. So we'll get these guys off. And like I said, I've got the original, or the 8mm, or the 8-pin connector. Can take that off too. Get that out of the way. It kind of goes without saying, it helps to have your window down so that you can grab it a little easier from both sides. I'm just keeping a hand on it just in case it wiggles free. I guess it's not going anywhere. This side, yeah, it comes up. You can kind of see there's a little plastic clip here. It may be kind of snug on yours. I don't know. You'll have to maybe give it a little bit of a tug. So this is looking at it from the outside, I suppose. I mean, if you've got things apart, you might as well kind of get the dust out of the way, clean up the surfaces so that the new gasket, little foam gasket on the new mirrors, have something clean to seal against to keep water out. Swing it back around to the inside here, and I'm gonna kind of reach through the window, and we've got quite a few power or electrical harnesses that have to feed through that same opening. These will be what interface with that RF module. Looks like I've got 4 on this one. We'll just line up the studs. There's a little metal clip at the top that can kind of press into place, letting you know you've got everything aligned well. That'll kind of temporarily hold it, but since this mirror is so much heavier than the original one, I just want to keep a hand on it while I'm getting these first couple nuts on there. Like I mentioned, these are hex nuts that have a nylon locking kind of insert on them. I don't know what the torque should be for these, but I think it's fair enough to say that you'll just kind of snug them down. You don't want it to deform the metal or anything. You don't need to go too crazy on it, but because it's got a locking patch on it, it should be all right. You can kind of watch it as you're doing this. You'll see it snug into the trim pretty nicely. I mean, it's got as nice a fit as the OEM did. And you've got the 2 screws or bolts that need to go in more in this door flange area. So now I believe if you had the manual folding version of these, then it would be as simple as just swapping these out and then doing the direct 8-pin interface for your signals and for your mirror adjustment. Since I've got the power folding option though, that was kind of the whole intent of me going with this Boost Auto product. You can see that kind of snug in. I'll have quite a few other harnesses here to tap into. Those will be things that we have to do behind the door panel. But I think that's pretty stout on there. Like I said, this is a much heavier mirror than the original, the OEM one. So, you know, I'm pretty hopeful that it's going to be just as robust, if not better, than the original product. So now that we've got, you know, the wiring kind of pulled through the metal door frame, we're actually going to start taking this door panel off. If you haven't got a set of these, very helpful if you've got any kind of vehicle work. They're these non-marring like trim panel removal tools. I believe the first one we got to take off is this handle cover. It's like anything, you hate breaking clips, so you don't want to do anything like that, but you also have to be a little firm with it to get these clips out of place. Kind of just work your way around it. You don't have to go too crazy fast on it. Oop. Hit my lock button while I'm doing this. There you go. That comes off. So you can see we got, looks like 5 clips down here, 1 on the end, and kind of a tab. So we'll remember that as we come in back in. So with the door handle off, next step will be kind of this trim cover. There's 2 seams here. One will be up where the actual door handle flexes, or the seam between that. The second is the lower of the 2. That's the one we're going to focus on. If you can get one of your trim removal tools behind there, I think we'll need 2 of them. Get one kind of behind there to get a opening started, and feed a second one in where you can work it a little bit, get it a little wider. You want to work on, or start on one end of it to get these clips off. They can be a little difficult. But you can see it's starting to open up there. And then once you get it open, I think you can pry back on it. So we've got just the 2 plastic clips on there. And that'll expose the other handful of bolts that we have to get to up here. So these are a couple of 8mm. Coming down here to the bottom of the driver's side door, there are 2 7mm fasteners, kind of coming in at an angle. See, I missed one up here. We've got another one of these 7s up right underneath where the mirror cowl goes on here. So we've got all those out now. I believe what we're going to do is just kind of pull this guy out a little bit. There's likely clips along the edge of this. Find my trim tool here. Couple at the bottom here. We got those loose. One more over here. Then we'll just lift it up and off of the lock. Like so. So you've got the door loose, it's coming off. There are a few electrical connectors here. Got a larger kind of gray-white. That's for your windows and your mirror adjustment. We got another small 4-pin for, looks like your lock. And I'm not actually going to take off the door latch assembly for that cable. I'm just going to kind of let it hang here. I think that's probably going to be all right. This isn't an electrical cable. It's just a kind of like a brake line type, like handlebar, like bicycle brake line type. So I'm not going to do anything with that. I think we'll be focusing over here instead. So obviously this might be different for your truck and for the configuration you've selected. But I've got the RF module for the power folding feature. And then I've got this set of cables and clips and things. If you're looking at the part number, L will be the driver's side, left-hand side of the car or the truck. And then I think the driver's side one has more harnesses, so it's actually got 2 connector sets, whereas the passenger side one only has a single. So kind of a quick, easy way to differentiate between the two. Guys, I'm going to take just a little bit of different approach to the assembly of this. You know, if you watch the videos on the Boost Auto website, they have a pretty, you know, quick and easy way of installing this, where you kind of just, you know, bundle everything back behind your door module. That seems a little bit of a I don't know, just a wire cluster there. What I'm seeing is that on the inside of my door, I've got this big open space that's kind of behind the armrest, which I believe corresponds with like this area here. There's kind of this crash impact, I'll assume, kind of molding. This is the window behind this plastic membrane. I think what I'm going to do is, I mean, you can see how much cable length we have with these. This is all the cables assembled to the driver's side control module. I think I'm actually going to put it up over here where it corresponds to this hollow area, and I'm going to route my cables over and up to this guy. I think that would give me the best chance of being able to kind of tie these things down in a couple different places, and not have everything bundled together. So I'm going to give it a try and see how everything fits. I'm not too worried about tapping some holes into this. I mean, we've got holes everywhere. So what I'll probably do is tap it and then maybe squirt some silicone or something into it just to make sure I don't get moisture coming through. But I think I kind of like how that position is instead. So right about here, right underneath this kind of strain relief section of the door handle cable. So you'll notice I put my window back up. I thought it'd be a bad day if I went and accidentally drilled a hole through that. I think I'm going to put it right about here. There's not a whole lot of science to it other than that there's a contour in the door where I can kind of let it ride in the crevice of it. All right. Let's see how it goes. There's some sticky stuff back there. You know, actually going into this bead of like caulking, it's probably a self-sealant anyways, just based on how sticky it is. I think once I sandwich that all down, I mean, look at that, it's almost tar. So then my module will line up there, and I'll get some sheet metal screws to cinch it in place with a couple of bright flat washers. So I've got a couple of these little 1/4-inch sheet metal screws. You know, from other projects, it never hurts to hold on to that kind of stuff. I'll just go into that hole that we just tapped. No need to overdo it, but you feel it tighten into it. And again, it's going right through that bead of sealant, kind of squeezing out, so I think that's probably doing fine to hold it in place. Yeah, I mean, that's just as sturdy as anything. I mean, you definitely could do this the way that Boost Auto has it kind of shown on their website. I just kind of like the more permanent way of doing it, maybe this way. So then, like I said, we've got the door handle. The door actually makes contact with the metal through these two holes here. There's two kind of threaded studs back in the wall. We've got these clips here that are for the other portion right around your grab handle, about there. There's a little bit of space over top and a lot of space down in this area. I think what I'm going to try first is kind of doing something like this. Route my cables up and over. There's a little fuse here. I don't know if I had mentioned that, but there is a fuse in line just to protect the rest of the system. But there's enough cable length here that I can wire tie these together, or even electrical tape or something. And I've got, you know, just from doing different vehicle repairs, I've got some of those little sheet metal wire tie clamp things that I can put on here. And we'll see if this can get all bundled over to where it actually connects with the mirror over here. personally, I think that's maybe just a little bit more clean way of doing that. And again, because I don't like rattles and things, anything like this that's kind of hanging around, I think I'm going to probably wire tie or electrical tape it to the cable bundle to try to kind of sturdy it up as best I can. So let me just kind of talk you through some of the wire routing that I did here. I wanted to kind of cinch down this fuse section, and I just wanted to have a couple places tied, every 6 or so inches along this cable route. I did use, Boost Auto has their kind of prescribed method of bringing the cables down through this. There's a rear section behind this white clip. So what I did is I kind of broke my cable bundle into the two. I've got it cinched with the electrical tape up until this point. I've got some that are going north up to the mirror like this. We have the one that came through the mirror that'll go to the legacy cable here. And then I've got an additional wire that comes down here, this kind of skinny one here. The blue and white needs to go into this guy here. So this blue and white is coming from the mirror. Or sorry, I've got a blue and yellow coming from the mirror. And then I've got a blue and yellow and then a double orange coming from the control module. For the power folding, it's the blue and yellow. I think if you had a power extend, you'd probably also have another cable coming down for a yellow. I'm just going to kind of harness that down here in this kind of area below. The other one is the main power for your module. You'll want to route that down and below. These are the original ones that go to your window and mirror control and then your door lock. So those will kind of be kept there. But I kind of like how everything kind of flows in this way. Plus it minimizes how much is going on up here, and I can kind of cinch that down. Now I'm going to do a check fit before I go and say it's all good, but assuming it is, the kit came with some of these wire retainers. If they're good, I may pop another hole here or here, something like that, just to tie it down so that I'm not resting on the metal. I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's not like this is fretting on there because I have it tied down with the electrical tape. There's also the shielding and stuff of the cable bundle. I'll probably do another here if need be. But, this would be another approach to doing it. So we're looking here at the door control module, the original Ford one. And there's this large header that you can kind of depress this plastic tab in the front and slide it down. This is where you're going to get main power for the boost control module that you installed. And what you do is you just tap into the main power source for these. The kit comes with these T-tap things, these little wire taps. You can see they got these little jaws on them, the metal jaws. That's going to go onto the wire. And then on the other side, you just close the door on it. And then you probably get a set of pliers to cinch it into its place. Yep, you'll hear it click when it gets latched in. So in my case, the kit had purple and blue. It doesn't much matter, just so long as you can still see what wire it's actually tapping into. So I'm going to put blue on the black and purple on the red. You may need to kind of splay these apart a little bit to get a little bit of access. Or in my case, I had to cut back this sheath a little bit to give myself just a little bit more wiggle room, that cloth braiding that the OEM uses. There you go. So you got both of those tapped in now. And now what you'll do is, with the cables that I had already shown kind of coming from the control module, routing behind the door control module, over here we've got black and red. just tap those in. See, we've got the metallic conductor that'll go into the slot of the T-tap. Just push it in place until you hear it kind of come fully home. And then same with your return, your black. So did you hear that? Now it's got power. I mean, there is battery power still in the vehicle. Now we've got the RF module from the Boost Auto. It's got power. So now that guy is set, and you can plug him back into the door control module. Oops, got it rotated around. So that guy's all set. Now, there's plenty of play in these cables. I don't know that I need to do anything to retain it further. Now, I had mentioned that I had routed my cables in a way that I've got my power extend or power fold wires coming from the mirror down behind the legacy door control module, and then I've got this harness coming from the Boost Auto control module off to my left hand side, and you'll just connect the blue and yellow to the blue and yellow. It's kind of nice in that regard that there's really not a whole lot of guesswork to this. Let's see if these guys are keyed or not. Yeah, I mean, it's a keyed connector. You're not going to screw it up. It'll only fit together one way. Then just make sure you hear it click. So these are all the wires I need down here. And I think what I'm going to do is throw a zip tie on them to get some of this excess out of the way. And that's kind of another nicety, I'll call it, is that the kit that comes has a lot of extra wire ties and things in it. A few spare T-clamps and things like that, the little wire tie T-clamps. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to strap it down to this original harness, and that's because it's got a cable, like a cable anchor that's going into the door itself. So rather than just letting it float, it'll actually draw it back to the metal door. I'm going to bind up everything in there so I can keep it from moving around too much. Good. And I'll clip all these ties once we know that everything's in a good shape. Okay, working on the north side of the door control module. There's a few different sets of harnesses. There's a 4-pin and another 4-pin. They're opposite gender though, and these are the ones coming through the door from the mirror. So you'll just marry those guys up, make sure that they click home. And then we have the original connector going up to the mirror, and then the 20 to 8-pin connector adapter from Boost Auto. That all clicks in place there. So again, like we had done before, I've got a cable anchor here from the original original mirror, and I'm just going to tether those up to keep everything kind of routed nicely. I'm going to tie it back down to that stud though, so that it's not floating around. I'm going to let this actually come through a little bit. It seemed like it was a little bit pinched in there. There's plenty of room, I think, behind this plastic cowl. I'm not going to force that in there. We'll leave it a little bit loose so we're not putting undue strain on these wires. Yeah, that's pretty good. And once I know everything fits in place, then we'll clip ties and things like that. And like I said, I may even throw another couple more just to bind things up a little nicer. A couple quick observations as I'm kind of putting this back together. You know, you've got miles of space behind here where the Boost Auto controller is. What I did find is the way I had my cables bundled here though, I had too much of a knot kind of built up right next to this stud, and it necks down a little too far right where this mirror cowl goes on. So I'm actually going to retie these a little higher north up here, keep them out of that way. But I'm pretty happy with where the wires are placed here. There's no pinching or anything as I'm pushing things into place. So I think I am going to put a few more cable ties on there just to hold them down. So as you're putting this door back on, you've got to get your lock fed through this opening, but at the same time there's a bit of a lip on the back side of this, so you have to kind of get it up and over the windowsill. So I kind of start where this lock is and let it kind of work itself over. Make sure you're not pinching your cables or anything as you're putting it back together. And then there's a long like dowel on the back side of the door panel right about here, so you have to get it lined into a hole before you press all your clips into place. Kind of make sure that you feel that it's got itself into place back here. You can start to work those clips into place. So zoomed in here on the cable knot that I was kind of talking about earlier. This is where originally I had everything bundled down like this, but you can see that the plastic door panel comes right up into contact with the metal door frame here through one of those fasteners that we removed. So you have to kind of leave it down to just a few of these cables coming up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to knot it up a little bit here with the cable ties, trying to keep free of these slots here, because this is where that cowl clips into place here and here, and then down here at the bottom. So I think now that I'm up and out of this, I'll probably go something like this, bring all the wires together and zip it this way. It's maybe not the prettiest thing here, but as long as it doesn't rattle, I think I'm okay with that. Yeah, kind of like that. All right, guys, let's wrap it up. So we've got the Boost Auto Parts mirrors installed. I've had them for about a week now, commuting to and from work on the interstate, as well as trailering things around town, and I'm very pleased with them. Biggest benefit to me, power folding feature of them. I love being able to power fold, getting in and out of the garage, as well as in parking spaces in town where I don't want to be too obtrusive. So that to me is a huge benefit. It's very clean and easy to use. There's other videos on YouTube to kind of give you a tutorial how to use it, but it's essentially just a quick button sequence on your OEM mirror adjustment. You can fold them in and out. Very, very slick approach to doing that. As you had seen in the installation video, it took me about overall probably 1 to 2 hours, and that was with my own modifications and my own trial and error and some videotaping and things. So I think if you guys pick up a set of these, it won't take you much longer, probably only about an hour or so to get your set installed. They're very sturdy mirrors going down the interstate. There's hardly any rattle or anything to them. I had a little bit of wind noise to it, and I actually ended up taking off the cowl inside and tightening down my bolts in a slightly different pattern. I actually started with upper left, forward, lower, back, lower, upper, forward, kind of in a crosswise pattern, and that seemed to suck the gasket down a little bit better and seal things up so that I didn't have that wind noise anymore. One thing I did notice though is that the upper mirror, while the rest of the frame and everything's very rigid driving, the upper mirror does slightly flutter a little bit. That might be because of how I've got it adjusted, the way I've got it canted back a little bit, just for my viewability, or it might be because it's a bigger piece of glass. I guess in either case, it's slightly noticeable. It doesn't deter me from using them, but it is something that I'm going to try to find a method to mitigate that. If I have luck with it, I'll make a video of it so you guys can try it out as well. Boost Auto Parts as a company, very responsive, easy to chat with. I had a email string going with them for a while, and it's very, very cordial people to chat with, easy going. So I appreciate that. The parts came very quickly when I had them ordered, so if you guys are interested in that as well, it's a pretty short ETA. And overall, my impression of them, at least this being my first impression, is very good. So I'm pleased getting these, and I'm pleased getting them installed. I hate to sound petty, but if you guys like content like this, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. It definitely helps me at least know what kind of things you're enjoying seeing and what you'd prefer not to, I guess. So consider doing that. I put a link in the description of this video for these mirrors that I got ordered. If you guys are interested, check them out. You might like them. And I guess we'll call it a day. Get on to the next project in another video. See ya.